everyone. Hi, brothers and sisters. It's so good to see you today. It is. For those of you that are new to my channel today, hello. My name is Melissa, and I'm a grieving mother. Yes, I am. A grieving daughter and a mother. I'm a grieving mother first and a grieving daughter second. Or maybe just both together. Forget that introduction. My name's Melissa. And in my other videos, we were talking about the emotional impact, and my other two videos we were talking about sadness and anger, shocked, stunned, and surreal. Well, today another emotion out of the emotional impact side of grief is anxiety. So once again, in my videos, we just jump right into it, guys. There's really not a lot of messing around and a lot of big introductions. I just want to share my heart with you, and I just want to share my experiences with you, and I pray that it will encourage you and bless you. Today for anxiety, and for those of you that are new today, we buried our two youngest children 4 years ago, Noah and Sophia. And Noah was age 7 and Sophia age 5. Noah had just started second grade. Sophia had just started kindergarten. So they were murdered by their oldest brother. And so there's a lot of emotional impact that comes with loss, brothers and sisters. There is. And basically, I'm anxious about everything now. I am. And I think life is full of anxieties and fears, and tears. That's just kind of what life is full of. It has a lot of grief in it, and it can be very grim. Our society, we definitely make sure we don't talk about that a whole lot, and we definitely want to stay more on the topic of joys and smiles. And don't get me wrong, boys, so do I. That is a huge misconception for those that are not grieving, for those whose hearts have not been shattered, to think that we actually enjoy this, that we just enjoy this new grief, this awful grief that we're in. We don't. We miss the life of joys and smiles and regular trials and tribulations, if there is such a thing as a regular trial. We feel like this anxiety over loss, especially the loss of death, the loss of your children, the loss of somebody that you love very much that is no longer a part of this world anymore. We just wonder, what's happening to me? What's happening to me? I even feel that way with my own son. He's not dead, but it feels as if he might as well be. He is in prison for 96 years, his entire life. He went to prison literally 3 weeks before his 20th birthday. So, we grieve the ones that we love that are in prison too. Prison, whether even if it's a short sentence, I'm sure we grieve their absence. And then the longer sentences, we grieve their absences. Even in spite of their crime. That is what's been amazing to me. I just didn't think I'd ever go there, I'm off topic again. That's why I got to write this stuff down. That is a topic for another video, which I will do. I'm definitely going to be doing videos about jail and prison and life in there and the emotions that go along with having someone you love and care about in prison. But anyways, we feel like, what's happening to me? I'm nervous. I shake inside. I wake up panicky in the middle of the night, and I just can't settle down. I really do. And this has actually been occurring way more in this last full year than it even did more at the beginning. I wake up extremely panicky in the middle of the night, and thrashing around, yelling out in the night, screaming out in the night. But yet I have no memory. when I wake up, I mean, I don't even know what I've dreamt about, but I have a feeling. I mean, it's like I know I was reliving that awful, horrible tragedy of the night our children were killed. And somewhere in my subconscious, in my sleep, I am revisiting that. I wake up very panicky and fearful and just missing my children too, just really missing them. The other day, I literally had a panic attack at our local grocery store. And I've had plenty of those, unfortunately, in the last 4 years. Um, I seem to be anxious all the time about everything. Can anyone else relate to this? Does anyone else in your grief deal with anxiety, panic attacks? I think I have to want to believe that I'm not the only one. And I have heard from some of you that I know that I'm not, and that we are fellow grievers together on this journey of grief. I also am always wondering who's next. I think with my anxiety coming in, I'm thinking, who's next? Who's next? I want to say something that I have been learning in my counseling, that anxiety is common in grief. So I guess I don't really need to wonder, does anyone else really relate? Because it's actually very common in grief, which is why I'm talking about it. When loss shatters our world, anxiety is usually one of the results. I mean, I don't really understand how it cannot be, when loss shatters our world. Our sense of control is gone. I feel helpless. I wonder what will happen next. And so I think about that a lot, and I think about losing my other two teenagers and other people in my life that I love very much and care for. Even if I'm not getting along with them currently in my life, my love for them didn't stop. My care for them has not stopped. I still pray for them and believe and hope for restoration in those relationships that are extremely strained right now, But my children's death, my parents' death, it calls many things into question. The world and life, it's just not as fair as I thought it was. And yet it's like you always know life's not fair. I'm from the Midwest, and we got this expression. Maybe once in a while my mom would say it to me, life's not fair. Fair's in August. In Nebraska, we had our local fair, every August, right after school started, the fair would be there in town, and spend a week at the fair. And that saying used to trip me out. And now in my adult life, I think about that quite a bit. Life's not fair. Fair is in August. But we want it to be. We just somehow want it to be at times too, don't we? Maybe that's also why we have such a desire to help those less fortunate than us. There's a desire within our spirit for life to be fair for them too. The death of my children, they've also shown me I'm not as powerful as I thought. Sometimes even our children, and I don't even know what the word is I'm looking for, but we feel powerful with our children. They're so little and small, and we're so tall and big and wise. So we think. But there's just something about small children that can make you as an adult feel powerful and feel like I can protect this child. I can keep this child safe. And the death of my children just really showed me I'm not. And I have far less control than I dreamed for my children. Far less control than I thought I had. Anything can happen at any time to ourselves or to anyone else, that we love and care about. So then I think about that. Anxiety, brothers and sisters, it really is the natural result of loss. It's the natural result of loss. We are limited beings. We can handle so much stress. We can only handle so much stress, loss, and tragedy. The anxiety builds. So basically, brothers and sisters, sooner or later, we're going to feel it. We will feel that, and it will slowly leak out. Sometimes it spurts out, and at other times, it'll just burst out like in a flood. The anxiety just whoosh, you know. Yeah, our lives have been forcefully altered. When we deal with homicide and traumatic death, it is forcefully altered. It is such a force, such an evil, evil, dark force that is just like, it's just, yeah, forcefully altered. I read that somewhere and that just stuck with me, yeah, forcefully altered. That's what we feel like as parents whose children have been murdered in a tragic trauma, you know. So, yeah, I just need us to understand, fellow grievers, that anxiety and panic attacks, they are common. They are common, and there is nothing wrong with you for having them. There's nothing wrong with me for having them. Anxiety is a natural expression of our grief. I believe that. It's just the natural expression of our grief. Oh, I'm anxious, and that's natural. That's natural. Losing Noah and Sophia is traumatic. It's traumatic, friends. Losing my mother and father is deeply saddening. That's not a word, saddening. I think so. Yeah, I think so. It's deeply saddening, Oh, I guess that breath reminds me, just breathe. Okay, so what do we do with all this anxiety? What do we do with it? What do we do in the moments of our anxiety rising and building in the midst of these panic attacks? We hear so much in grief circles about just breathe. I actually heard that, before I experienced grief, just breathe. It's a very common phrase in grief recovery circles, just breathe. And breathing definitely can be one of the best practices, I think, friends, really, to implement when anxiety hits. I really do, to implement that. I have noticed, when I had that major panic attack in the grocery store the other day, I had to practice on my breathing and just think about it. So I had to just close my eyes, breathe in deeply and slowly through my nose, and then let it out slowly through my mouth. And I repeated it again and again. And I just kept saying, Jesus, Jesus, as I breathed in, and Jesus as I breathed out. And I just did it for several moments there, focusing on my own breathing as much as possible, focusing on the name of Jesus as much as possible, to get my mind off of the tragedy, to get my mind out of that awful night, because I am in the middle of a grocery store. I am pushing a cart. I have food in there. There are people around me. The world is trying to grocery shop and get their stuff, and they are not in the mood for a grieving mother having a panic attack in the canned food aisle. No, they're not in the mood for that, And so, newsflash, neither am I, but hey. I've learned, I did counseling a lot the first year and a half, and I remember my counselor telling me, to practice when I'm not anxious is going to be very important. To practice the deep breathing when I'm not in the midst of a panic attack. And then once the deep breathing becomes a habit, I can apply it much more easily when panic strikes me or anxiety strikes me. And so, yeah, I don't want to overwhelm you with a whole lot. I really don't. It's all overwhelming. And that breathing technique, the breathing in real slowly, out real slowly, focusing on much of your breathing as you can. It really does help center the consciousness, brings the heart rate down, back down to a normal heartbeat, and we're able to get out of that public place safely, and get to our safe place, get to our safe place to let it all out, And if you're already in your safe place when the panic strikes, go to town, brothers and sisters. Go to town. Let it out. Let it out. I let it out. These last 4 years of that deep breathing has made a huge difference for me in public places, at my job, the loss of Noah and Sophia, the loss of a child, children, it strips you to the core. Boy, it strips you to the core. And there are times you will have to remind yourself to breathe. That is very real, brothers and sisters. Like sometimes I find myself holding my breath and I have to remind myself, breathe, Melissa, breathe, And it's like I just hear the voice of heaven in my heart telling me, you can survive. You will survive. And that is my message I'm going to end with you today. The message that I hear whispered in my heart, in the midst of my anxiety attacks, in the midst of my panic attacks, I hear in my soul, you can survive. You will survive. You can survive this grief. You will survive this grief. It was really good to talk with you today, brothers and sisters. It was really good to share my heart with you and our experience with you. I really hope to hear from you. If you have a prayer request, something specific you'd like for me to pray with you and over you, please email me. My email is in my descriptions, comment, anything, anyway. But it was really good to see with you today. And I'm going to be praying over our anxiety and our panic attacks. But just remember, it is a natural, normal expression of the emotional impact of our deep loss, of our deep grief, the loss of our children. God bless each of you, brothers and sisters, and be well today. I will see you next time.